You meet someone who asks very little. They do not question delayed replies, request long explanations, or press for emotional detail. Your shoulders drop. The distance feels like freedom. But the reason it feels safe may not be the reason the relationship is safe. And that difference carries a cost, revealed only after attachment grows. At first, there is no argument to expose the difference. The arrangement becomes legible when you finally bring a preference, a disappointment, or a need into the space between you. Relief is the opening clue, not the final verdict. When you are used to monitoring other people's needs, a distant person creates fewer signals to manage. Their silence can feel like permission to exist without performance. You do not have to reassure, entertain, disclose, or decide quickly. Relief arrives because the social workload is low. That relief is meaningful information about pressure you have been carrying. It is not yet evidence that this person can participate when connection asks for something more than mutual quiet. Low effort and durable care must be evaluated separately. Distance leaves open space, and the mind can fill it generously. Quiet becomes depth. Inconsistency becomes independence. Missing information becomes a private story about hidden care. Because the person reveals less, fewer details interrupt the version of them that feels safest to imagine. Projection is not foolishness. It is the mind completing an unfinished picture. The risk begins when imagined qualities receive more trust than the person's repeated, observable choices. Facts eventually deserve more authority than hopeful interpretation. A distant relationship can offer belonging without much visibility. You can feel connected while keeping vulnerable parts untested. The bond remains meaningful, but it does not ask whether another person can stay present near your need, disappointment, or imperfect language. Nothing has been rejected because almost nothing has been presented. The privacy feels protected, but the relationship has not yet shown what it does with the parts that need protection. Untested acceptance remains comforting, but incomplete evidence. Strangely, consistent distance may feel easier than inconsistent closeness. If you expect very little, you do not have to keep recalibrating. The limit is disappointing, but stable. The nervous system often prefers a known ceiling to a warm door that might close without warning. A predictable limit reduces scanning because there is less hope to update. Calm can therefore come from certainty about deprivation, not only from confidence in care. Predictability can soothe even when the predictable thing is absence. You may speak more around someone who does not pursue you because there is no immediate demand to continue. Around another person, every disclosure seems to create a follow-up obligation. The difference shows that quietness is relational and shaped by what you expect your words to trigger. With the low-demand person, each sentence remains yours after you speak it. That freedom can reveal how often other relationships have turned disclosure into an obligation to keep performing. The contrast reveals which relationships make speech feel expensive. If closeness has felt absorbing, an unavailable person appears unable to take over your inner world. Their boundaries are already visible. You do not fear being engulfed because they rarely move toward you. Yet, protection from intrusion is not the same as capacity for mutual intimacy. The missing question is whether independence remains available when genuine closeness appears. A safe bond can approach without annexing the routines and private spaces that help you remain yourself. Protected independence still needs a bridge for chosen closeness. When the distant person withdraws, your attention may intensify. Decoding them becomes a project. The chase provides direction and keeps your own needs out of focus. You are busy interpreting their silence, so you never have to ask what kind of presence would actually nourish you. As attention moves outward, self-knowledge can become strangely vague. You may know every possible meaning of their delay while struggling to name the simple behavior you hoped to receive. Decoding can become intimacy's convincing but lonely substitute. Rare attention often feels unusually powerful. One warm message after a long, quiet period can outweigh many ordinary absences. The intensity is real, but intensity measures contrast, not necessarily care. A bright moment in a dark room looks larger because the room is dark. Intermittent warmth can create a powerful emotional rhythm without creating dependable presence. The nervous anticipation around the next signal may be mistaken for proof that the bond is unusually deep. Emotional volume does not measure relational substance. The relationship may seem peaceful because important differences never enter it. Neither person asks much, names much, or risks much. Low conflict can reflect compatibility, but it can also reflect a bond that has not become visible enough to disagree. A relationship cannot demonstrate repair while every difficult subject stays outside. Peace becomes more trustworthy after a difference has entered, been tolerated, and left both people visible. Visible difference gives peace a meaningful test. When both people hide preferences to preserve ease, the relationship receives polished surfaces instead of usable information. Nobody appears demanding, yet nobody knows where the real edges are. The absence of pressure is purchased with the absence of being fully known. This mutual editing may preserve a pleasant atmosphere while starving the bond of coordinates. Without preferences and limits, neither person can tell whether the apparent fit is real. Usable information is what allows genuine compatibility to emerge. Real safety includes responsiveness, the sense that another person notices, cares, appreciates, and tries to understand. Responsiveness can be quiet. It does not require constant messages or emotional intensity. It means that when something important is offered, it is met rather than merely left alone. Responsiveness is compatible with a quiet temperament. It can sound like a brief acknowledgement, a remembered detail, or a clear answer instead of a long emotional performance. Quiet attention can be brief, clear, and deeply consequential. A person can respect delayed replies and still communicate interest. They can give space and still follow through. They can accept privacy while remaining available for an honest conversation. The alternative to emotional distance is not emotional crowding. The combination matters. Space without response becomes absence, while response without space becomes pressure. Quiet safety needs both room to breathe and a dependable way back into contact. Neither ingredient should be traded away to obtain the other. Ask what happens when you express a modest need. Does the person respond, negotiate, or disappear? Mystery can sustain attraction, but behavior reveals capacity. The test is not whether they become intensely expressive, it is whether reality can enter the relationship without ending it. Begin with a request small enough to observe clearly. One honest answer tells you more about relational capacity than weeks spent interpreting tone, timing, and imagined hidden motives. A modest experiment replaces fantasy with information. When you call someone easy to be around, ask what created the ease. Was it mutual respect, shared quiet, predictable limits, and freedom from performance? Or was it the fact that neither person expected to be emotionally reachable? The same relief can come from very different structures. If ease comes mainly from never needing anything, the arrangement may be protecting self-erasure. If ease survives honest preferences, it is beginning to look more like mutual safety. The source of ease determines whether it can grow. A distant person may feel peaceful during the interaction and lonely afterward. You were not overstimulated, but you were not deeply met. That aftertaste matters. Capacity was protected, yet relatedness may still be hungry. Pay attention after several interactions, not just one. A repeated sense of being emotionally unfed can coexist with relief from stimulation, and both signals deserve a place in the decision. After effects often reveal what the pleasant moment concealed. Wanting responsiveness does not make you needy. Wanting space does not make you cold. The task is to stop using one need to disqualify the other. You can require low pressure and still want care that becomes visible through action. These needs are not opposites on a single dial. A person can want generous solitude, low conversational demand, and unmistakable evidence that important moments will receive a response. Mature closeness can protect both needs without ranking them. Instead of requesting a personality transformation, ask for something observable. Tell me if plans change. Acknowledge the message even if you answer later, or say when you need distance. Small reliability gives quiet connection a structure the mind does not have to invent. Observable requests prevent both people from arguing about identities. The question becomes whether a specific behavior is possible, sustainable, and freely chosen rather than whether someone is inherently caring. Specificity makes the answer possible to recognize. Some silence is thoughtful. Some is simply absence. You do not have to insult the person or deny the good moments. You can stop adding hidden meaning where behavior provides none. Clear seeing is kinder than building intimacy entirely from interpretation. Removing the fantasy may feel like losing something because the imagined relationship held real hope. Grief can accompany accurate seeing without requiring you to restore the old interpretation. Reality may be sadder than projection and far more usable. Look for someone who does not crowd your quiet and does not vanish from your reality. They can tolerate pauses, hear a boundary, express a preference, and return. Their presence feels less dramatic because it does not need scarcity to become noticeable. This person may be reserved, busy, or slow to open. What distinguishes them is not constant availability, but a pattern of making contact intelligible when the relationship reaches a meaningful edge. Reliability makes reserve understandable instead of chronically ambiguous. If steadiness feels flat, notice whether calm has been mistaken for lack of chemistry. Ordinary care may not produce the same spike as uncertain attention. Give consistent behavior enough time to become emotionally legible. Consistency may initially feel quieter in the body because it removes the cycle of alarm and reward. Calm attachment often becomes noticeable through accumulation rather than a single electric moment. Steady warmth can take time to register as warmth. A responsive relationship also needs access to accurate information. Name when you care, when you need quiet, and when something hurt. You cannot test another person's responsiveness using needs you never allow them to see. Visibility can remain measured. You do not have to disclose everything. You only need to offer enough truthful information for the other person's response to belong to reality. Measured truth is enough to begin testing responsiveness. The real cost of the easy distance was not waiting for a reply. It was mistaking the absence of demand for the presence of safety, then building closeness in the blank spaces. Relief protected you from pressure while also protecting the relationship from becoming real. The blank space once felt spacious because nothing could intrude there. Later, it felt lonely because nothing dependable could meet you there either. Both impressions were telling part of the truth. The cost was carried in possibilities that never became mutual. The quietest healthy connection is not empty. It contains room, choice, interest, and dependable response when something matters. You do not need a person who enters every silence. You need one who can respect the silence without abandoning the relationship inside it. Such a bond does not demand that quiet adults become louder. It asks only that silence stop carrying every message, and that care become observable when the moment genuinely requires it. Room and response together create the safety distance alone cannot provide.